We are turning our attention over to what is on at the moment, as we did get to see last night in Lagos, Ikoyi precisely. The president had his presidential media chart, the first since he assumed office. Now, President Bola Tinubu last night asked Nigerians to believe in his government, saying the administration, which is just 18 months old, is on the right path and marks a glorious dawn for Nigeria. Well, featuring in the maiden edition of his presidential media charts held in Lagos, Tinubu expressed confidence in the security architecture, saying he has no reason to sack or probe his security chiefs. Declaring that he had no regrets removing fuel subsidy, he insisted that his controversial tax reforms had come to stay in spite of opposition from some quarters. Well, though he hinted that the government might be open to negotiation on the aspect of the tax reforms dealing with value-added tax, that's VAT. Well, he also said that his government reforms, though coming with unintended painful consequences, were not intended to inflict pain on Nigerians, but to lead the country to the glorious future that every single one of us are craving for. Plenty of things were said yesterday right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Now let's give you a feel of what went down the last night in Ikoyi.
We were spending our future. We are spending our generation's fortunes. We were not invested.
But are we
are just deceiving ourselves. That reform is necessary. I could see the smugglers fighting back. That one doesn't affect me. It affects smuggling. Why should you have expenditures that you don't have revenue for? I don't want to question people with five limousine type of vehicles on the roads. Well, we should teach management with all our programs. We have to manage our resources within our means. There's no way out that you give out fuel and allow all the entire neighboring countries as Father Christmas. I don't have any regret whatsoever removing the subsidy. It is necessary. We cannot spend our future generations' investment upfront.
Lagos, Nigeria. That was our president right here in Lagos, Nigeria yesterday, where he held the media chart that lasted for an hour, talking about so many things. And so far, 8 key takeaways have been taken out of the presidential media chart. Anyway, joining me this morning to extract everything that has been said so far and more is Supriella Membrim, a public affairs analyst, and he joins me via Zoom this morning right here in Lagos. Good morning, Supriella. How are you today?
Good morning. I can hear you.
Compliments of the season, by the way. Anyway, so I would love to have your view regarding the presidential media chart. What do you make of what happened yesterday right here in Lagos?
Well, it's, I say it's, to me, in my opinion, it comes with mixed feelings. The fact that the president addressed certain concerns concerns with regards to issue of fighting corruption and how he intends to fight corruption and also the tax reform was, will I say, sort of, how will I put it, was sort of relieving for me. But also the quality of questions that he was asked in regards to the interview or the presidential media chat was also problematic for me. If I'm being honest, because he made certain assertions about cutting costs of seniors, teaching Nigerians management and the needs for management. But at the end of the day, the problem we had or we had that interview was the fact that the journalist, they didn't question him about his own the cost of governance, especially within the executive, and more with look at the 2025 budget and the allocation to the the office of the chief of staff to the president, which is not a constitutional role, and that should worry or trouble anybody. So I feel that was one of the areas will I say, pressed him more on and try to see an answer for Nigerians, get an answer for Nigerians with regard to that.
So, what were some of those questions you were expecting to be asked yesterday?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry, can you
What
come
was
again?
Okay, so I said, what were some of those questions that you were expecting to be asked yesterday? Because you said some of the questions being asked by the journalists were really not what you were looking forward to hear.
Well, some questions were, some questions, I think the problem with social media chat, the president was not properly pressed the way I think journalists should have, pressed the president, especially with what is going on in the economy, inflation rates. He was asked how he was going to bring down the inflation with his very, very ambitious inflation plan, inflation reduction plan, which in the according to the 2020 to about 15%, 13%. And when he was asked, I think he just sort of regurgitated what we are used to hearing both from the past administration and also this administration. Increase production, increase exports, decrease imports. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, with regards with the decrease in import, the otherwise has been the case. What we are seeing at the moment is an increase in import, especially in agricultural products, in the name of trying to balance out, shortages within the country.
Right.
Basically, if you look at the presidential media chat, the one lacuna I will I say, in my opinion, the whole arrangement was the fact that there were not full-on questions. For instance, the president talking about cutting cost of governance. When he came in, he bought an Escalade bulletproof vehicle, uh, also a jet, and the rest of jumbo private jets. I mean, these are areas where the president would have been questioned by the journalists. So to get a sense of credibility and with the whole panel and the whole process, but also to get clarification for clients.
Okay, so right now let's begin to analyze some of the takeaways from the President Tinubu's first presidential media chat, because a lot of things was mentioned yesterday. And I remember a question was actually asked, so Priyala, if you can hear me, where he was asked concerning the market force, and then the president answered with having a free market, because he said, and I quote, that he does not believe in price control. One of the journalists asked, we have middlemen who tend to make things worse and make things difficult for Nigerians. Don't you think a price control method would help? And then the president said he doesn't believe in price control method. He believes in a free market, and with more the issue of demand and supply, when we have more stuff coming into the market, things will eventually fall into place. Now, how did you react to that statement?
Well, I am very happy that the president has clarified his position on this. The fact that he's not in support of price control and is the proper free market economy. I think it gives us a sense of the type of policy direction the president will be heading, you know, going forward. Price control, well, price control, it is not El Dorado when you say there should be price control, because there are other factors when you talk about price control. The fact that there will be also an alternative economy, or will I say black market for these commodities, and there would also be issues with scarcity, because when you force people to buy and sell at a specific within a specific you know, threshold, and most likely they are not getting the profit they think is necessary as per the demand, they would have to hold to sell at exorbitant prices, and thus creating a situation of you know, black market and the rest. We saw it with the petrol PMS regime, the PMS pricing regime. So we saw every time there was scarcity, and then there will be black market and the rest of that. So I mean, price control holistically is not something that I think any government at this 21st century should engage in. I think the anything that has to a sense of price control should be how the government supports various industries. That is the most important part of intervention, especially
Okay.
with our economic model, the economic model we have in Nigeria. How the government supports specific industries. Talked about, the president also spoke about injecting needed liquidity and incentivizing the drug manufacturing sector, that's the pharmaceutical sector. I think the same thing can be done in the area of agriculture, and that's why I vehemently and still vehemently disagree with the fact that the federal government has continued Boras program. The Boras program had a lot of success. If you look at it, look at the, you know, and I saw the need to continue that program. I mean, if there are people who were not able to meet up their obligation, payment obligations, I mean, there's always debt recovery, and the whole program was discontinued for whatever reason they had, and now the president is talking about also stimulating that agriculture and exporting agricultural produce. You
Okay.
know, and
Now,
I
right.
mean,
Now, I would love us to move over to another major point that was stated out yesterday, because there are plenty of things, you know, that was discussed yesterday. One of the major things Nigerians have been reacting to is the issue of the removal of fuel subsidy. We saw how when the president came on board last year, and the first thing he said on his inauguration, there was subsidy is gone. And we saw how a lot of Nigerians reacted to that, and we're still facing the aftermath of the removal of fuel subsidy. But interestingly, yesterday, one of the things he said is he has no regrets removing subsidy. What do you make of this?
well, the truth is, fuel subsidy had to go. So I agree with that. I agree with the fact that fuel subsidy had to
You
go, and
agree
I
with that?
think
Now,
every right
considering,
thinking.
sorry to break in there, but considering the fact that he was also one of those persons at some point or the other in this country where he came out to protest against the removal of fuel subsidy, and now we're seeing him saying he has no regrets in the removal.
Well, that was all politics. I mean, if you look at the situation on ground then and now, I mean, now was even a, would I say, more difficult time to do that. I mean, the whole world was recovering from a pandemic, which is still reeling on the surface of geopolitics and the rest of that. So, I mean, there was even a better time than it was right now. But I think one of the reasons that made sense to was the fact that there was no mitigants in place. And in terms of mitigants, I'm talking about not just palliatives and the rest of that, but I'm talking about refineries working. Now we have the Dangote refinery, we have the Port Harcourt refinery, whether it's functioning or it's blending naphtha, that's all a different ball game altogether. But I mean, we just have to take them for what they say, that it's functioning. We have the Dangote refinery, we have the BUA refinery coming up. So I mean, removal of fuel subsidy is a long time coming, and it's a policy direction I align with. What I disagree with was the unification or the so-called, will I say, devaluation of the naira by the central bank governor, and the process and the system to which and how it was executed. Um, that is exactly where Nigerians are reeling from right now. Not even subsidy, because if you look at the cost, the price of a lot of commodities, they're influenced by our foreign exchange, and especially when they are not, there's well, I say a shortfall in production. It means we have to import that shortfall. When we import that shortfall, it means we have to now be concerned with the currency value of our naira as against the dollar or against the euro or against wherever we are importing from, and that would also have an issue with the inflationary pressure on the on the purchasing power of Nigerians. So I think that is where I disagree. I mean, the fuel subsidy cost a lot of whether now or later in the future, cost a lot of comfort for Nigerians. But
Right.
doing at the same time when you're also will I say at the same time you're also devaluing naira, when we do not produce sufficiently enough to back up the naira. It's always going to be a problem for Nigerians until we beef up, we put in place policies to produce more, and not only produce more that is sufficient for us, but also start exporting. Nigerians will still have to, be concerned about the value of our currency. I usually point to the fact that most times people do not know that South Korean, currency, it's actually less valuable than the naira. But South Koreans do not care because they produce most of what they consume. So the pricing is usually affected at the local sphere. Imagine if South Korea was an import dependent economy, and they do not even, in fact, an exporter of electronics, impact on how that will impact on the South Korean economy. So the problem we have, I think, what actually depleted the power of Nigerians was the uncoordinated devaluation of the naira. That is
Okay.
the problem we had. In fact, we valued the naira when there was no economic management team, and that was a problem. The central bank governor, Yemi Cardoso, was not even appointed then. The central bank board was not appointed, and I mean, when the former central bank governor was removed, the acting central bank governor just went in and they valued, after meeting with the president, they valued the currency. And even the current central bank team is actually playing catch up, and we shouldn't do policies, we shouldn't execute policies like that, because whatever we think is the right thing to do, we should know that when people plunge into poverty as a result of policies inconsistent, or the fact that we're able to properly calibrate our policies to reflect the realities of the time, we should know that when people fall into poverty, is also very much difficult to bring them out of poverty than
Okay.
preventing people from falling into poverty.
Staying
And
with
that
the
is
economy
one.
still, right? So staying with the economy still, we've seen and talked about the issue of tax reforms. It has been on the front burner lately, and it's still an ongoing conversation. But we also did get to see yesterday that it was one of those things that was highlighted during the course of the presidential media chart, where our president Bola Ahmed Tinubu came out to say that the tax reforms have come to stay, but he is open to negotiations on value-added tax. Can you take us through that a little bit?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Okay, so I'm saying you should run us through what you think regarding the tax reform and everything he said yesterday.
Well, the truth is that nobody can say the tax reform bill itself a bad thing. Bad thing. They are very excellent things that, I mean, should be executed and would bring us So 21st century tax administrations. You know, this, at the end of the day, I personally have a problem with not benchmarking the rise of VAT, which tax itself is, it's a social contract. The fact that citizens bequeath their resources to, a structure to allocate those resources and then guarantee rights and security. Taxation is, and that's what taxation is. So, for instance, if you want to increase taxation, especially direct tax, which like will I say a spending tax, what you call it, it comes with spending, right? It should be marked as an increment in purchasing power of citizens. For instance, want to increase consumption tax is VAT, want to increase consumption tax, it means that the purchasing power commiserate with that increase or that increment. Or else, for instance, I think if a staggered increase in VAT, it should be or based on the level of also will I say improvement power of citizens. So I mean, but there are a lot of things that are good in the tax reform bill, and I think that there is still what I disagree with is the fact that when people say the bill is perfect, that bill is not perfect. Every state has concerns. If you look at the computation done by policy, you will see that states like Burundi State will be losing 1 point something billion, almost 2 billion. So the governor should complain. If I was the governor, I wouldn't, my us and not complain or make a fuss So there should be ways in which the government, liaise with the subnationals and then chart a path forward. But to say that there shouldn't be dialogue, that the bill is perfect the way it is what I disagree with.
Now, speaking about charting a path forward and conversation regarding if the bill is perfect or not, if you can hear me, I remember the president yesterday said that the bill is still open for debate. Anyway, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll talk a bit regarding security. Interesting, revealing revelations were stated out yesterday by the president during the media chat. Just stay. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're on to This Morning on ITV. And right here in our Lagos studio, we have an extra in the presidential media chat that did happen at Ikoyi, Lagos State, Nigeria. Now, a recent report from NBS regarding data on kidnapping for a year did say that Nigerians in 1 year paid 2.23 trillion naira for ransom. Now, talking about security or insecurity as the case may be, yesterday we saw the president expressing confidence in his security architecture, and of course this truly begs for concern. Let's not also forget that in the 2025 budget, the budget of restoration, we saw a lot of monies allocated to the security angle of it. I still have my guest with me right here, joining me via Zoom, Supriala. What do you make of all of the statistics and everything revolving around security at the moment? Because we saw the president being bold and confident and saying that a couple of years ago you couldn't travel via road to the north, and right now you can do that with ease. How true is that?
Well, I don't know how true that is. Well, I believe that with with security or insecurity at the moment, there's also improvement in some areas and sort of a flare up in other areas. I First of all, the situation in the northern part of Nigeria, in some areas, quite struggling with the rise of a new terrorist organization, Boko Haram, and the cross border, also the politics around our surroundings. I'm very happy that the National Security Advisor was able to, will I say, repair the relationship, sort of repairing between our neighbors, that's Niger Republic and Chad. That's the multinational joint task force, which is now back in operation. So I'm happy about that. But when we talk about security, in what area are we going to benchmark the government, especially with the start about the monies that are spent in the payment or settlement of ransom? No serious country should be spending trillions, or let's say billions of dollars paying, terrorists or paying for ransom or the ransoming of its citizens. And the president made a lot of improvement in security when he came into office. Going back from when we were in 2015 without a functioning air force, or will I say functioning and motivated army, ground force. So I mean, we expect more from this administration. I'm not disputing the fact that there are progress in areas and other places, but we expect more. It's 18 months or more, since this administration office, and we expect more from them.
Now, speaking
The
about
figures are not really.
expecting more, yes, because we really need to go pretty soon. But speaking about expecting more, what are your prospects for Nigeria's economy in the year 2025? Because we saw that President Tinubu showed Nigerians that 2025 would usher in economic prosperity and growth, and also emphasizing on the need that he understands the plight of the people. We also saw yesterday where he said, right now you need to cut your coat according to your size. You need to learn how to manage, basically. So as we get to Coast Hub, what are your predictions regarding 2025 in the economy of Nigeria?
Well, we see where the budget is going. I think the budget is an expansionist budget. That is what I mean by expansionist budget, expanding budget. Is that the fact that the government intends to inflate the economy, and by that I mean spend to project or to sell productivity, and I think that should see a bit of belief in terms of the cash injection economy. But we should also be careful that once we are doing cash injection, our preferences, we should also be it should be done in a way that it inflates it inflates it causes inflationary pressures or pressure in our economy. So I mean, my prediction is that we should see that. I don't want to be a pessimist, so I want to hope at the very, very high target of 15% reduction, or a reduction of 15%. I want to hope that is achieved. But
Right. Okay.
again, that's my sentiment.
Okay. Thank you so much
My
indeed.
head is telling me.
Okay, all Nigerians have right now is hope, and we can only hope for the best and have faith in the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you so much. I have been speaking to Suprela Membrane. He is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining me today.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We'll leave the conversation here this morning, and we'll look forward to seeing better days and great amazing changes in the country Nigeria as we get to move over to 2025. That's our bit right here this morning in Lagos. My name is Anu Stevens.